Hi guys, it's me. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my 5 year journey to get to where I am with my vesting, health, and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that I discovered over the last 5 years that I think will help anyone. So in modern even today, even in the regular news, you'll see articles that tell us that our body doesn't need to actually age, that our brain can be alive for 300 years and things like that. So I became fascinated with this topic, health and beauty, and kind of staying young forever. Because I could see just from reading the news and kind of understanding the world better and better, I started to see that that is possible and that is something that we are, as humanity, are slowly moving toward. So this is what kind of prompted me on this 5 year journey where I think I believe I changed my path categorically, where I had one path in life where I was kind of through environment, through my upbringing, through internal I was supposed to go a different direction, but I decided not to because I became aware of the fact that I was kind of like playing a role of some sort, and it started becoming more and more difficult to live in the sense that I felt like I was in this hamster wheel and I just didn't want to be in it. And like what I was doing, it mattered, but it didn't matter that much. I mean, I wasn't doing anything huge for the world. I wasn't trying to make a huge difference. And I realized that with this channel and everything that I'm doing with house, I do want to make a huge difference. And anytime you want to make change or you want to do something, first you need to help. In order to help others, you're supposed to help yourself first, right? So that's kind of what I realized. And about 5 years ago, I started getting into fasting. Before that, I did try a couple of things where I would eat only vegetables for a day or I would only juice for a day. And I remember getting a splitting headache because I kept drinking carrot juice, and I guess my body at that time was reacting really, really badly to this change because I've trained it to eat a certain way over the years without really realizing what I was doing, because I was never, even though I used to be extremely, extremely skinny, um, it wasn't something I ever tried to be, it just came to me. So I never, like, I ate kind of healthy just because I naturally enjoy healthy food and I'm picky about eating, but it wasn't a conscious choice. So in those years, I would feel horrible. Just I would eat carrots or like salad and things like that for the day, and I would feel horrible. I had to lay down with like horrible headaches and things like that. I used to get colds at least twice a year or sometimes more. So my my health was kind of bad considering I had a lot of energy and I ate kind of healthy, because again, I didn't eat a lot. That was probably a big thing. Even if I had, let's say, a cheeseburger in a day, that's pretty much what, like, I wouldn't eat much more than that sometimes, just because I didn't feel like. So basically, I went from that to starting to fast for 1 day. Before that, I did keto, and the keto helped me. It really actually changed my body chemistry somehow, and I realized that these changes were real. Like, I felt some things that I've never ever felt before, and just my body started functioning very differently. Eventually I stopped doing it, and that's when I believe I went vegan for a little while, when I started fasting, just because it was easier to start fasting. You slowly kind of You can get rid of all your sugars, like simple sugars, processed food, caffeine, and go vegan. So no animal. And I don't eat a lot of meat, so my diet is already somewhat clean. But in order to have an easier time transitioning, that's what you kind of have to do. So yeah, I started with weekly like a juice fast. Then I did one day just on water. Then I did a couple of days just on water, and I kept doing that until I got to 10 days on water. So then I kind of got stuck at that number for a couple of times, I believe. So I don't know, it amazes me because there's some blogs I read where people say, "Oh, I just dry fasted for three
Then they
days," and
just
can consistently do that. That wasn't the case for me. My emotions were kind of all over the place. There were fears and things that I was realizing, the mental pain, emotional pain that was coming to the surface, overthinking and realizing, kind of changing my perspective, my reality was all part of that, and that was it was really the fear that was stopping me from going further because at certain points things became too scary. Because when you realize that this is actually real, that people do this, that this is normal, or at least it can be normal, and this is something that I could have been doing years ago if I took my health as seriously as I do now, I wouldn't have aged at all. Now unfortunately, I do have some problems which are slowly getting better, but while I was on the 5 year journey, I kind of got into the emotional and mental side of it. So that's when I stopped fasting pretty much completely. I just couldn't do it. For almost 2 years, I could only fast for 1 or 2 days, or 1.5 days dry fasting. Um, and I think that's because I got too close to my fears that I couldn't overcome at the time. And also my environment isn't very conducive to moving on. Unfortunately, I live in a neighborhood where there's still a lot of people with very heavy and dark energy. I remember, and you kind of have to go for walks to connect with nature. So I realized I need to be secluded in some sort of natural space or in an area where there's only certain type of people carrying certain kind of energy, because I realized that there were things that where I could feel physical pain from somebody throwing like a bad comment at me on the street. Um, like literal physical pain. So I'll tell you this one weird story. This one guy, he randomly barked at me, and I've literally felt thousands of needles kind of landing on my shoulder in the direction where he kind of like barked. Um, this is very strange, right? I don't know what to say about that, but that was like a huge experience where I could, because you become so sensitive to foods, to waters, to
that
emotions,
really
that you just cannot, there's only so much you can handle. So you really need to be in an environment where you can draw out some really positive emotions, because otherwise you can get drained really easily. So I think that was kind of my experience where I kept trying to get past it just because I'm stubborn, and moved on and accepted that I just have to keep doing my work and focusing on that, and maybe just fasting for one day and that's it, because maybe that's what needs to happen until I'm able to, let's say, get away for 10, 20 days in a tropical environment and whatnot. So right now that's kind of where I'm at. I find there's daily activities that I've created for myself that help me grow and basically become healthy again. And so dry fasting and fasting is just one of them. So I'll get back to the fasting quickly. Um, for water fasting, I went up to 10 days. I did it a few times. Then I did 19 days and I couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, it just became such an, like, I just started like fiending for, I guess that was fiending. I don't know. They say if you're in that state that you should stop the fast when but it wasn't fainting as in hunger, like physical hunger. It was more like mental. Like my mental body could not handle the idea of not eating for another day. So that's when I stopped it, and then I thought, okay, I can do it next time, but then I couldn't, and I could only do 10 days, and I started doing them repeatedly. And I think I did it a couple of times before I realized that I wasn't really changing anything. I was just kind of sticking to the same pattern, and it wasn't really improving anything in my body anymore. Like that fast did all it could do. And I suppose if I could go longer, I could have cleansed more, but I couldn't. So that's when I realized I need to start dry fasting. So I started with that. Prior to that, I would get horrible, horrible headaches even after a day or a day and a half of dry fasting, which now I feel it. I tend to just sleep more, and I feel a heaviness because your body is also switching from one form of eating to basically internal eating. Like, so you go to ketosis. So yeah, basically what happens in dry fasting, I mean, like if you guys read the literature, which you should definitely watch a bunch of videos and read stuff on it. But yeah, basically what happens is your body switches over to kind of emergency mode, and it starts consuming all the broken and the worst kind of diseased cells in your body. So that's why your body pretty quickly heals. Um, so one day of dry fasting is considered to be 2 to 3 days of water fasting. So that's kind of why people do it. It's a more efficient and effective way. I started to see that as well for myself. Once I started dry fasting, I didn't really water fast anymore because it wasn't necessary. So basically, even if I'm like semi dry fasting, if I'm doing like 18 hours or something, not on purpose, but just because that's how my day is broken down. Like if I just drink water or liquid, then that's kind of like going from dry fast to water fast. But yeah, when you're starting out, you definitely want to maybe have do green juices, then switch to water, then slowly go to dry fasting because your body has to adjust, and you're not gonna have these horrible effects, after effects, because I think it's harder to go back to it if you start like stirring up green stuff or just like weird stuff that people say is happening to them. I mean, it's definitely exciting when that happens, but it's also extremely scary. For me personally, I think avoiding that fear, avoiding being too afraid. I mean, you should face your fears, but you should be reasonable about it. You don't want to re-traumatize yourself or traumatize yourself deeper because you need to feel safe. And if you start to get scared, or like if you start to have effects, physical effects that are scaring you, then you no longer feel in control. So that's when it becomes really problematic, because I think there are certain diseases where you cannot fix them with fasting. You need to do other things in order to get to the point where you can fast. Um, so it really depends on your body. So definitely I'm simply talking about my own experience and the things that I've done for myself, and I considered my own lifestyle, my childhood, my genetics. So you do have to consider everything and just take it slow. I mean, some people do it fast and they try it out. If you have enough faith, if you have enough I find people who have a lot of faith in God, they're usually able to kind of jump into it, and it's fine. They can do it over and over again. If you're a person of great faith, I think that you can probably skip those steps. But if you don't have kind of something outside of yourself that you strongly believe in, that's, essentially God or a God particle, it would be very difficult to get past those fears. So I would advise you to be honest with yourself, and yeah, again, you should consider what your genetics are, what your environment is, how you grew up, what you can and cannot handle. When it becomes too much, even if your symptom is not, you think it's negative at the time, but it turns out it's just a simple a symptom of fasting, but you stop the fast because of that, don't blame yourself, because the fact that you're thinking negatively about a symptom that's simply a result of fasting, that's not a negative symptom necessarily, means you have a lot of fear inside of you and you're creating a scenario to free yourself. So always trust that you know what you're doing and kind of your body is helping you along. Um, so the biggest difference about fasting and kind of starving is the fact that you can choose to stop anytime. You have the choice. Nobody is forcing you to do this, right? Like it's completely up to you. What you decide at the end of the day is what's gonna go. Like I said before, I'm still working on going taking it further in my fasting journey. I would like to give you guys before and after results once I get to my journey. Unfortunately, right now, the last 2 years, I have been concentrating on healing my mental and emotional health, and I wasn't concentrating on my body and my looks as much. So they kind of suffered. I noticed a lot of aging symptoms started happening when I just didn't care, basically. But ideally, once you are healed on the inside, really eventually your physical body will catch up. Really, that's the reason that I stopped trying to heal myself physically, because I got to a point where I was dry fasting and I was at 150, 117 pounds, and I was about 125. Right now I'm about 140. So, and I wanted to go further, and I knew that technically I could do it, but I realized that it would be kind of futile because I would have the body, but I wouldn't be healed. I would still feel horrible on the inside. And I've learned a long time ago that even if you get that one thing that you want, it's not a wholesome. It helps a little, but it doesn't really help. So it's better to do it when you're really ready and not worry, achieving something that's superficial, that's just for for others to see. I mean, if I had chosen to do it because I wanted to have a career and wanted to help people and that was more important, but at the time I felt that I need to first help myself. Truly, I want to speak from the heart, and I want to really get to the root of what it is, without actually just giving you a superficial result and then saying, hey, this is what I basically want you guys to follow along on my journey and learn with me as well. So that's why I am starting to post about it, and I'll be making more videos where I talk about basically how to fast, how to get started, just breaking down. It's a really huge topic, and I feel like those of you who are watching me, I hope I'm not confusing you too much. So I'm going to really break it down and make it really easy to start if you guys want to start. And also just to help you learn about your own health, and because we all have the potential to be young and beautiful for as long as we can be. Um, and there's really no real necessity to age. I mean, this is proven by scientists today. These studies aren't being highly publicized for whatever reason, but that already exists. And if you look up on YouTube or on the internet, there are people who are fasting, there are people who are looking way younger than their age. And I mean, really, youth is the key to happiness. You're happy when you're young because you feel clean, like because your energetic bodies are clean and you're still pure. You're pure and you're connected to God, to source, whatever it is that you believe. So really it's essentially finding your happiness. I mean, if you're happy with your life the way it is and you don't want to change your avatar if you're happy with the status quo, then that's also great. These videos are more for people who do want to change, or maybe they just want to improve themselves a little, or just a certain aspect of themselves. Because you don't have to jump in and do everything, because being young forever, it involves diet, and it involves spiritual learning. It involves being with those you love and loving truly and openly. It involves like having a career or a path that you've chosen, um and being happy in it. It involves exercise. It involves basically doing what you love. I'll be posting different videos about health, and you guys can follow along on my journey. I also have mukbangs and things like that, because really everything you do, you should find a balance between enjoying it and doing the right thing for yourself and your body. Okay, guys, so if you haven't already, I hope you do subscribe, and leave a comment, leave a like, and leave a comment, leave a like. So, guys, I want you to not forget to subscribe, and like this video. And also, don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know what exactly you would like me to talk about. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And I hope I see you guys soon.